Hello, everyone. So my name is Marylou Faure. First of all, I wanted to thank Adobe for the opportunity to talk tonight. So a little overview briefly. I am a freelance illustrator and art director, and I've been working in London for the past 4 years. And so what I'd like to talk about is just my experience into how I became a freelance illustrator and how I developed a style that is now my own. So I'm French, as you can probably hear. I studied at a school called Les Alpingen, and I studied there for 5 years, and I got a master's degree as an art director and graphic designer. And their view on how to do things was to basically make us try as many different creative skills as possible, so that we could sort of try out and see what we liked and what we didn't like, and what we were good at and what we weren't good at. But for me, as a result, after 5 years of doing that, I got a diploma, and I had no idea what I wanted to do at all. I knew I liked illustration, but I also liked graphic design and photography and video production. So I wasn't sure what my next step should be. So I moved to London, because I love the city, and I used to live there when I was little. And I figured, well, OK, so I don't have any contacts, and I don't have any experience, and I don't even know what I want to do. So I'm basically starting at the bottom. But what I did is I did a series of internship and work experiences to try and figure out what it was that I wanted to do. So I did a lot of graphic design and logo design and branding and window graphic when I was at a place called Ico Design, and they had Snog and Benugo as clients, so it was pretty exciting. And then I did a lot of editorial work for a company called Smack, where they had a lot of digital publishing work for iPad magazines. So there I did more editorial work, and I was in charge of the typography and everything, and animating the covers and creating buttons, which was really exciting, actually. And then I did this last internship, which made a massive difference for me, because it was only illustration work, and it was with this guy called Andy Spencer. And he had the London Transport Museum as a client, and he had this project where we could do this range of illustrations. And that's when I really realized that that's really what I was passionate about, and that's where I wanted to focus on. I was actually going to go freelance at that point, but I'm very, very happy that I didn't. I'll get back to that later. I didn't go freelance because actually I got a job opportunity at an agency called Nice and Serious. They're a creative agency that focuses on sustainability and environmental issues. So working for them was awesome because they had clients such as WWF, BHF, Unilever, UNICEF, Ben & Jerry's, and so it was really nice, and it was really nice to work as part of a team. I was working closely with animators because I was in charge of the style frames and the storyboarding and the character design. So eventually it led to me learning how to do a character that was going to be easy to animate, and then eventually learn how to actually animate a character myself. So all of that was really nice, but the problem that I was having was that I felt that I wasn't so free in terms of creativity, and they were pushing me to do as many different styles as possible, when actually on a personal goal, I was trying to just have my own style, develop my own style, and really just sell myself with that own style. So the two weren't really combining together so well, so eventually I left and I went freelance. I'm going to skip that one, actually. So the reason why I said I'm happy that I didn't go freelance before Nice and Serious is I don't think I would have been ready. This was my online portfolio at the time. And I think you can see that there's an issue in terms of the style, because there's not actually just one style. There's loads of different ones, and there's a really detailed colored one, and a really detailed black and white, and simple black and white, etc. And there's not really anything linking them together. So now that I think about it, I'm happy that I didn't go freelance, because I think maybe I would have gotten work, but I would have gotten work just because someone needs an illustrator, and not because they're looking to get my style and my work in particular. So this is the style that I have now. I would describe it as really colorful and pop and quirky and a bit cheeky and sexy and overall quite fun and positive. It took me a lot of time to get there and a lot of work. To give you an idea, this is the style that I used to have. So not so fun, not so bubbly, not so happy. A bit creepy, but I had fun doing that anyway. I was really enjoying it, and I liked drawing in black and white with a black pen and having a lot of details, but I didn't feel comfortable to sell myself as a freelance illustrator with that style, and I didn't feel it was modern enough or fresh enough, and it wasn't really representing my personality, because I'm quite a happy person, and I don't think you could really tell that from that style. So eventually I realized, well, I'm not going in the right direction and I'm not doing what I want. So I'm going to start from scratch, basically. And something that really helped me develop a new style was my color palette, which is fun, which is funny enough, because I was actually really, really bad with colors. I hated colors and I was really uncomfortable with colors, which is why I did everything in black and white. But I knew I wanted colors in my new style, so I basically forced myself to put colors in my illustration, and eventually, at the beginning it was looking like shit, but then eventually I got there and I found a color palette that I was really happy with and that was vibrant and fun, and then I realized with the style that I was developing, actually having a restrictive number of color was making my work stand out a bit more and feel a bit more stronger and contrasted. And then something also that I think defines my style as well as my color palette is probably my character design. I love drawing characters, and I've always loved to do that. I love giving an expression and giving an attitude to my characters. I like to draw women, curvy woman most of the time, very confident and very sexy and sassy, like that llama, and quite provocative as well sometimes. And I think also that's something that I've developed and is now sort of a key element to my illustration style. So also something that helped me develop my style was the sort of questioning to why I'm illustrating, and also why am I illustrating the way that I'm illustrating. And I used to really not like it when people asked me that question, because I actually didn't really have an answer. But now I know that it does make your work stronger to have a message or a reason behind it. Even if you don't necessarily share it with other people, I think it does make your work stronger. And for me, it's as simple as I'm happy when I'm illustrating, and I would like people to be happy when they look at my work. And it sounds a bit cheesy, but I like to put a smile on people's faces and think that when they look at my work, they are entertained, and they are giggling, or they're laughing, or they're smiling. Something that was actually quite fun was I was at the illustration fair last year, and I had my work on the stand. And so this was the first time that I was seeing the reaction of the people to my work live, which was a bit stressful, because there were a few people who were like, oh my God, like not their type. And then there were a few moms sort of taking their childs away because there were so many tits and bums and naked people on my stand. But then overall, I think it's just that people looked like they were quite happy and enjoying themselves, and they were smiling. And I was happy to see that the message that I wanted to give was the one that I was seeing. And also something that I like to do is put a positive twist on everything that I talk about. Recently, I did a series of illustrations about the EU vote. Because I was seeing so many people talk about it, and I wanted to be involved somehow. But when they were talking about it, it was so serious, and it was so urgent, and it was so tense, really. And I wanted to talk about it, but I really wanted to take the piss, really. I wanted to talk about the lightest way possible, and just make people smile about it. So I illustrated French kissing, and Spanish siestas, and German beers, etc. And the idea was just to talk about politics, but really not being political, and taking it really lightly, and making it fun. Well, unfortunately, French kissing wasn't enough of a good reason for people to want to stay. But I tried. So that's enough about my illustration style. Something that I wanted to talk about as well was just my experience as a freelancer, which felt a bit like this at the beginning. The beginning is really stressful, because suddenly you're realizing that you are by yourself, and and everything's relying on you. And if you screw up a project, it's your fault. And if you don't have enough clients, or if you don't have enough money, well, it's your problem. So the first 6 months are slow, and they're scary, and you are very much by yourself, and you don't have a team or an agency to hide behind. And so I had told myself, okay, so I went freelancing April 2015. So April 2016, I'm going to give myself a little yearly review and do a breakdown of how things have been going, and see if it's reasonable to continue. And the first 6 months happened, and it wasn't going so well. And then December and January and February, then I started to really freak out and be like, oh, my yearly review is going to be terrible. It's going to be a depressing yearly review. And I was freaking out at that point. And I remember people telling me when I went freelance, they were saying, oh, give it 6 months, give it 6 months. It's going to pick up after 6 months. And I used to think that's weird, what happens after 6 months? And it's true. It does pick up, and I think what happens is, as long as you work really hard, and you're motivated, and you're professional, and you work constantly, even if you don't have client projects, eventually things pick up, and the clients who come to see you, well, they come back with bigger projects, or they talk about you, they refer to you to other clients, and eventually things pick up. And then also, if you put your work online on a daily, weekly basis, then people start noticing you, and they write articles about you, and they feature you, and then people come to work with you because they've heard of you. So things do pick up eventually, and for me, it was really the last few months and beginning of 2016 was definitely a turning point, because not only did my client list, doubled, also I was now working with much bigger clients, and I had the chance to work for Google and EasyJet and T-Mobile and Vice and Ford and Adidas and everything, and it was so nice because it was finally a reward for my hard work, and it was nice to see that agencies and clients were trusting me to be a part of their projects. Now, there are a few advice that I think I can give to explain how I think a good attitude and good advice to how to survive as a freelancer, let's say. First of all, patience. You really need to be patient, and I'm not a patient person, but you really need to be patient because, as I said, the first 6 months are slow, and also something that's quite frustrating is that you realize that you can't really approach people. I mean, you can email them and you can tell them that you're interested, but the odds are that they reply, and then they need an illustrator, and they like your style, and they have a project that could fit your style. The odds are pretty low. So actually, you need to rely on people coming to you and approaching you, which can be a little bit frustrating. But again, the more client work you do, the more clients you get from them. So the waiting periods are shorter and shorter. And then something as well that I realized, which I think is awesome, is that the type of project that you get are very varied. So I will be working on stickers for apps, and then I'll be working for illustrations for a magazine or a book, or I'll be doing live drawings or storyboarding or animation or vinyl packaging, etc. So it's very varied, and it can be a bit scary because sometimes someone contacts you about a project and you actually don't have any idea how you're going to even approach it. But it's stimulating, and when you're freelancing, the problem that you can get is that you're only going to progress as quickly as you make yourself progress. So if you don't really challenge yourself and you don't get out of your comfort zone, well, you're not going to progress as much. And if you do everything in the same style, for the same type of client, for the same type of project, I think it's a bit of a shame, and you should challenge yourself and you should get out of your comfort zone because it's stimulating. And also, when you think about it, you're getting paid. When you're accepting a project that you don't really know about, or how to do it, you're getting paid to do it and to learn a new skill, and I think that's awesome. I'm going to skip that one. And then also something that I think is really important is to be careful what you put on your portfolio, because what you're going to put out there, the clients who are going to contact you, they've seen something that they liked, and they basically want you to do something similar. So what you put out there is what you're going to get in terms of projects most of the time. And for me, I had a problem because my first projects in my new style were very, very much targeting children and were a bit childish. So there were a lot of animals and cute little characters and pastel colors and everything. So I was getting comments from clients who were contacting me for different types of projects, saying, well, yeah, we like your style, but we think it might be a bit childish for us. Or, oh, don't make that character too cute because it's not a children's project. And I got where they were coming from because that was what I was showing, but I really didn't want to be put in a box of, oh, she only does children's illustration. So what I did is I put a bit more of this on my portfolio. So it's not just because I like to draw naked people, although I do, but it's just that I wanted to make a point that it's not because I have a colorful, simple, bubbly style that I have to do illustration for children only. And it worked, actually, because I never got that comment again, and I guess it was enough to reassure the client that I was capable of doing things for different target audiences. I did get a lot of sexual projects after that, so then I had to dial it down and find the right balance between too childish to a bit too adult for me. And then I think that's the best advice that I can give anyone, is just keeping yourself busy. Because the tricky thing with freelancing is that you're not really in control with the amount of work you're getting or the flow of work. And you're going to get periods where everything are really busy and really dense, and then suddenly you have nothing. And I think the right way of seeing this is that, well, your slow periods, they only need to be slow if you decide them to be, because actually I find that my busiest periods are probably when I don't have client work, because then suddenly I can work on my personal project. And I have a lot of personal projects. None of them are finished, and probably half of them will never be finished, but it doesn't really matter. The reason why I do them is because they keep me motivated, and they keep me creative, and I still have fun doing it, and I realize that actually when people are talking about my work or featuring me, most of the time they're putting some of my personal work as a reference, so it's obviously the moment where I have the most fun. And it helps fill out the phases where, well, the client isn't really replying, or you're waiting for feedback, or you're waiting for projects. And that is all I have to say tonight. But thank you very much for listening, and have a lovely evening.